Let's do this tattoo, but let's do everything wrong. I want to go out of my way to apply this tattoo correctly. I want to explain why it's wrong, and I want to show you the results so that way you know what to stay away from. Should you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment down below. I'll do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as I will be making more videos like this for you. I'm also feeling very sick right now, so please forgive my raspy voice. I apologize for that. A quick rundown: I'm going to be using True Skin Fake Skin for this demonstration, along with Spirit stencil paper. I'm going to be using the Stay Light tattoo machine, along with a CNC Police. This is going to be a standard 9-round liner right here. So typically when I apply a tattoo, I would essentially start by moisturizing the skin, setting a correct voltage, getting comfortable. I'm not going to do any of that here. I'm just going to go straight for it. I'm going to kind of approach it the way that we would if it's like our first day, first week, first month of tattooing. I'm going to start by setting a crazy needle depth. As you can see, that's way out there. So I'm going to start with this. I'm not going to put on any ointment. So from here, I'm going to kind of just apply it as if I was a beginner. When I first started, I didn't know any like fundamentals. I didn't know what to do or anything like that. And that process looked exactly like this. Maybe not as graceful either, but it definitely looks similar. I'm gonna go ahead and get some ointment to wipe away the excess ink. And we can see that if I just kind of continue like this all the way throughout, not only do I risk losing the integrity of the design, I also risk trauma to the skin, more pain for the client, and just inconsistent healing results. So we can see I've done a few lines and none of them are consistent, neighboring each other at all in any way, shape, or form, even though they're all done with the same needle. I don't even know if I've gone over right here yet, but I'm gonna do it again if I haven't. And right now, I'm even doing it in a manner where I'm kind of comfortable in the directions that I'm going. But if I do this in a direction that I'm not comfortable with, which would be like this, you can see how just none of these techniques look right at all. They look too abrasive, too gritty. They look too aggressive for me, in my opinion. If we take a look, the results are all highly inconsistent, although it may look a little saturated. If I bring you close up, you're going to see exactly what I mean. Here is a close-up view at these lines, and you can see, although it may look like from an angle that they're saturated, when I bring you close up here, you can see that they're anything but. They have a faded appearance, and the line weight integrity is fluctuating throughout each and every line that I am doing. So this right here is what it would look like to apply improper lines with improper technique. Very ugly and inconsistent. I'm going to kind of continue with this improper application so that way we get a good idea as to what it could look like if someone has an improper workflow. And keep in mind, I have my needle hanging out. I'll go ahead and ride the tube here in a moment to show you. This is just way too fast. This isn't doing anything productive besides scarring, more pain for the client, damage. And then even if I were to go over here and pack all of this in, especially with improper technique, I'm going to be able to tell, I'm going to be able to notice those differences in my application from improper versus proper technique. So let me go ahead and put a generous amount of ointment and wipe away so you can see what we have here. And again, maybe from that view, it does look like it's saturated a little bit, but when I bring you close up, you're going to see just exactly how it's not saturated. And the way that I'm using these techniques to apply this tattoo, I have seen it before, time and time again on human skin. And I wanted to make this video to kind of raise awareness on improper technique here. So you can see that looks saturated. However, the only reason why it looks saturated is because it was a dark purple and there is a lot of purple behind it. That is not by any means saturated at all. That was improper technique as well. Once again, when I bring you close up, you will be able to see that. So you can see that sometimes I'm off, sometimes I'm not. And keep in mind, I'm running at a low voltage. I'm only running at 5 volts even. So there's no way that I should be moving this fast with 5 volts even. And that would really also be determined by the machine. If you're using a coil, coils tend to hit harder. So therefore, you'd be able to move faster with the coil. But I'm using the Stay Light tattoo machine, which is a pin style tattoo machine. So it's a bit softer than a coil, which is why I'm running at 5 volts. I'm going to go ahead and try to complete this right here with this improper technique, and then I could bring you a close-up result. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my needle hang, and then we're going to go ahead and ride the tube. I wouldn't say there's necessarily anything wrong with riding the tube. However, it's not an ideal workflow. It causes more adversities, in my opinion, than it does to learn how to float the needle. So here we are going to ride the tube this way. Maybe not full on riding the tube, but we're getting pretty close there. So you can see now that I'm more dependent on riding the tube, I'm naturally kind of driving the needle into the skin heavier. So this can be a bad approach, and this is a way to develop a heavier hand than necessary. But this is still wrong. I'm sure by now you can kind of see that it's wrong. And the reason why it's wrong, from a technical standpoint, I'm not giving my needle enough time to do what it needs to do. So therefore, my result each and every time I pull the needle up from depositing ink, they're inconsistent. When we tattoo, we have to get very consistent results on demand each and every time we deposit ink into the skin. If we're not doing that, then we're not doing it correctly. So you can see I'm feeling uncomfortable. That was also wrong. I should have prioritized my posture and my position. Let's go ahead and wipe some ointment. I'm going to continue, so here we go. Bring it around like so. And again, these are just way too fast of movements, especially for this low of a voltage. This is how we get patchy, inconsistent results, which is what we want to stay away from. I'm even sure you can see that this packing technique is wrong too, especially at 5 volts. And then let's go right here. That's way too fast. Here are the results. Now, for some people, this may be acceptable. People may see this even as a good tattoo. However, we have to think about tattooing from a technical standpoint. We have to remember that the needle is going to make so many rounds per second. We have to give it enough time to deposit ink into the skin to accomplish a smooth, clean, solid, consistent, saturated results. Now, if we're not physically aligning our hand speed to our voltage and we're moving too quickly, then the needle doesn't have enough time to do what it needs to do, and there's just no way that we're going to get any sort of consistency. So you can see right here, again, although some areas may seem saturated, if we take a look, there's a lot of patchiness going on, and we really have to kind of pause the video and take a look at everything. You could see that this tattoo was applied just incorrectly altogether, and you can kind of tell that it was because it has a sort of like wonkier feel to it. It doesn't really feel like accurate or like there is like any thought put into it. Everything is the same line weight. The lines aren't consistent in integrity or saturation. So there is a lot that's happening here that's making this tattoo read negatively. So if I read it negatively, chances of other people reading it negatively are through the roof as well. Here's an even closer look to give you a real close-up look. Once again, the saturation looks deceiving because it is not nearly as saturated as the camera is making it up to be. There are a lot of wobbles, line weight inconsistencies, patchiness within the packing. So because of those technical applications, that would make this tattoo applied incorrectly, in my opinion. Before we conclude this video, let's add some incorrect shading and let's see what that would look like. So incorrect shading would be improper application and just kind of putting shading anywhere. So let's go ahead and just see what that would look like. So you can see that none of my pixels are spaced evenly. My hand speed to my voltage is unaligned. It's not consistent. It's not the same. So it's giving me inconsistent results here. You can see that I'm getting dot work and a texture sort of look. But the question is it what I am going for? You can see that the spaces that I'm using in between each dash as well is not consistent. And then these are the reads when we are operating from a place of just doing everything wrong and rushing. So you can see, obviously, I mean, I'm hoping that you can notice the improper technique by the way I'm moving my hand and by the results that I'm getting, because realistically, moving that fast is kind of unnecessary. This area is really light still, so I'm gonna go back over that. So you can see I have no plan, no proper technique. I'm just kind of applying shading literally wherever comes to my head first. That's where the shading goes. And I'm pretty sure some artists operate like this. If you know any artists, don't drop their name down below. So you can see though, even applying shading, it doesn't matter what technique we are doing. If it's shading, line work, dot work, again, it does not matter. It matters how we apply these tattoos technically from a technical standpoint. It doesn't matter if we're quick. It doesn't matter if we're slow. What should matter is how the tattoo reads when we are done. And this entire tattoo, all I've done was apply this tattoo each and every step of the way incorrectly. Now, in my professional opinion, it has a sort of like loose look to it. It doesn't really feel as tight as I feel it could have been, just because some of the lines are wobbled, the lines are inconsistent. You get the idea. The shading doesn't appear to be solid or consistent. It's coming off a little blotchy as well. So this is exactly how you never want to apply a tattoo. Now I figured that I'd make this video so that way you can see the application process of all the wrong choices throughout our tattooing workflow. So that way if you're making them, you could be a little bit more familiar with what you're doing. So for example, I'm moving way too fast. I'm not giving my needle enough time to do its job. The opposite of that would be running a high voltage and moving your hand too slow, which would pretty much get the opposite results of what we're getting here. If we're moving a voltage too high, moving too slow, we're going to cause trauma to the skin. So that is basically how that would work. Let's do a couple of more shades and then I can call it a day here with this tattoo. And I feel really bad for applying a tattoo like this. It just doesn't feel right. It feels abnormal. It feels wrong. But I'm doing this so that way we can kind of leave this video with a little bit more education and be able to pinpoint bad application practices. Okay, let's go ahead and clean this up and let's take a top look here. Actually, I'm going to apply a little bit more shading right here as well. Here is a top view and you can see that this tattoo doesn't have any sort of consistency. It has that sort of loose feel to it. And the reason why I say loose is because we miss some of the lines. The line weight integrity are very inconsistent and the shading is very blotchy and patchy. It doesn't look like anything was executed with any sort of consistency or technical precision. Here is a close-up look. I highly doubt that you will find a single saturated clean line that's reflecting the true line weight integrity. So you're going to notice that we're getting sort of faded appearances here, inconsistent packing, inconsistent shading, just inconsistent technique all around. And this is exactly what that looks like. If you ever see someone's tattoos and they look like this, it's either going to be one of two things in my opinion. One, they are still learning and they just don't know better, or two, they just don't care and this is the way they're going to apply tattoos, take it or leave it type of thing. Before I conclude the video, allow me to show you what proper technique would look like. So I'm going to be running at the same voltage because I feel comfortable at 5 volts. I want to make sure that I have adequate ink flow. I'm going to identify my point A and B, make sure that I'm comfortable, and then I'm going to commit to the line as best I can, moving in a direction that I feel comfortable with. I'm going to give the needle enough time to open up the skin and deposit ink, as you can hear. And I'm going to keep that movement steady and consistent as I possibly can until I've reached my point B with the small taper out right there. And this process would get repeated over and over and over. So here's a small taper in and out, taper in and out, taper in and out like so. And then I'm going to do it again right here. So taper in and out. That right there is what proper technique would look like for those who are curious. And if I completed this entire tattoo like that, the results would definitely be cleaned up. However, some of these wobbles and mistakes will still show up through, which is why it's important that whenever we take on a tattoo, we just do it right from the jump and we avoid rushing at all costs. So here is a top view at the final results. You can see that we did go out of the lines. The line weight integrities don't match up throughout the entire tattoo. The packing is highly inconsistent. The shading is not even shading. It's more just like specks, really. So you could just see, though, that doing everything incorrectly is going to yield these sort of results. The only technically correct part about this tattoo is this area that I just did where I just showed you. Other than that, everything else is applied technically incorrect. I feel like this would be a great place to conclude this video. If you have any questions at all, I encourage you to drop a comment down below. I'm going to do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. If you found this video helpful, please thumbs up this video and share it with someone if you think they might find it valuable. Before you go, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me so I can bring more videos like this for you all. With that being said, I appreciate you, your time, and your support. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.